Hey everybody, welcome back. We're here in Anguilla. This is sim update for beta version 1.6.11. This is the latest version. And we're also going to check out driver 581.42, the most recent driver from NVIDIA. And we are, like I said, in Anguilla. We're going to do this in the Piper Dakota from Carinata, which is a wonderful little airplane. And we are also going to do a little bit of a tutorial on go-arounds today. I want to talk to you guys about go-arounds. And we're also going to check out the brand new St. Bart's scenery from SLH Sim Designs, my favorite scenery designer in the world, scenery developer. They also did this airport, Anguilla. And so we got some great stuff on tap for you today. I know it's been a while since I've done one. Excuse my voice. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. We'll go rotating beacon on, mixture and prop full forward. And we gotta do this with the mouse. It's been a very, very busy last couple weeks. We'll crack the throttle a little bit. Let's go fuel on the right tank to start here. Prime the engine, even though the primer doesn't do anything. The way a primer works, when you pull it out, it's a tube, as you can see. And when you pull it out, it fills with fuel. And once it fills up, you push it back in, and you push the fuel right into the cylinders. And so that's how you get the engine primed to start. It doesn't do anything when you just do it like this. So unfortunately, that doesn't really do much in the sim. But we'll go fuel pump on, master and battery switches on. Take a quick look outside. Is there anybody outside to kill or maim? There is not. Toes on the brakes. And go. Starter back to both. Let's bring the throttle back to about 1200 RPM here. Looking good. Fuel pressure is good. Oil pressure is good. Oil temperature will come up as we warm up the engine. I'm just going to leave the yoke out of sight here just because it doesn't... just kind of gets in the way. Let's see here. One more thing I need to do is turn on FSU IPC so that I get my fuel pump up on the left hand corner. I want to show you guys this. Up in the left hand corner is the FPS. Obviously that's at 60. That's my monitor refresh rate. This is frame times. This here is a frame time graph, and any spike to this graph is a frame that takes a longer period of time to get delivered by your GPU to your monitor. So anytime you see a spike on that graph, you are going to get a stutter. So now we don't have to kind of wait to see a stutter. We'll actually see it in this, and this is like a little bit of a spike. That's not really a stutter. When you see one that goes all the way up to the, kind of the bottom here, hopefully we don't see any today, but if we do, that's what it is. We'll wait for the GPSs to catch up here. We'll set the altimeter. Altimeter is good. And there's 175, 175. So we're going to do things kind of official today. We're going to do it a little bit... still on the brakes. Let's release the parking brake. We're going to do things the right way as opposed to how we usually do them, I suppose. But once the airplane gets moving, you want to tap the brakes, make sure the brakes are working. And now we'll get matriculating over to the runway. One thing that some people do in small airplanes that I don't do, it either in real life or in the sim, is switch tanks before takeoff. If the fuel tank that got me to the runway, or the fuel tank I'm on has got me to the runway, I don't want to switch tanks and find out there's all kinds of things that can go wrong with delivering fuel from a fuel tank to an engine. Vapor locks, there can be air locks, there can be other kinds of obstructions, there can be you might have water in one tank that you don't have in the other. So anytime I have an engine running on a particular tank and that tank gets me through startup to the runway and through my run up, I'm sticking with it. I'm not going to be switching fuel tanks before departure because I don't want any surprises. What's worked has gotten me here so far. And why is... Oh, I see. I think because... wondering why my frame times are looking like that. I'm not quite sure. But I usually don't worry about that too much anyway, so we're just going to let that be. I wonder what this is all about here. No, I just had to go windowed and back to full screen mode for some reason. All right, let's set the parking brake, and we're going to do an engine run up in this plane. You can skip this if you don't want real world procedures. So we're going to go about 1200 on the RPM. I go fuel pump on. We're going to go mixture rich. Prop is full forward. And we are going to go up to about 2000 RPM. Come back here just a little bit. About 2000 RPM. It's much easier in real life to get these correct. We're going to go left magneto. You should have less than 175 RPM drop. That's right on the border right there. Back to both. Let's go right magneto, and you want less than a 50 degree difference or 50 RPM difference between the two. So those are both 175, 50 RPM difference. I might have my mechanic take a look at that before I go. All right, let's run through the prop here, and we'll go back to full. Run through the prop one more time. Back to full. You don't want your RPMs dropping more than like 500-600 RPM when you do this. I'm gonna do it about 3 times first flight of the day. And there we go. Fuel pump. I thought I turned it on. I didn't. All right, we're back to 2000 RPM, and now let's turn the fuel pump off. You want to check the fuel pressure. Make sure the fuel pressure is running, or fuel pressure is good. It is. Now we'll bring the throttle back. Bring the throttle back to idle. And this is an idle check, and I got to do my window back to non-windowed again for some reason. During a throttle idle check, what you're looking for is a smooth running engine. You just want the engine running smoothly, which it is. And you come back up to about 1200 RPM. Okay, not that much. I'll lean the mixture again. We'll go fuel pump. It's an FSU IPC thing, which is goofing me up. So we'll just ignore that for right now. So fuel pump on. We'll go mixture and prop full forward. Everything is looking good. Seatbelts are secure. We're ready for departure here. So let's release the parking brake, and we'll take a look down final. That's looking good. Take a look this way. That's looking good. So I'm gonna have to manually control my fuel pump today, which is annoying, but we'll deal with it. We'll back taxi a little bit. Nav and strobe lights. Landing light on. Runway is looking clear. I do have live traffic enabled, so we'll back taxi here. Normally, in real life I would back taxi full length. I'll just go back to this taxiway here. Sorry about the head tracker. And let's go transponder squawk altitude. And we should be squawking 7,000. Alright, so get ourselves turned around. Let's look at the turn coordinator. The plane is turning in the direction of our turn. The ball is swinging to the outside. That's what we want for both of those. Alright, heading indicator checks with the runway number. I'm going to set this to 10, which is our departure, or our landing runway. Alright, mixture and prop full forward. Fuel pump is on. Flaps are set. Seatbelts are secure. Takeoff power is coming in. Takeoff power is set. Engine instruments are in the green. Fuel pressure, oil temperature, everything looking good. The rudders are a little bit touchy on this plane, and I don't remember them being that way, but they have been. One thing I didn't check was my trim. It's one thing that you will never get a perfect flight. You will never ever have a perfect flight, especially with, clearly I'm having issues with FSU IPC. Let me just close FSU IPC, because it is not playing well with my setup right now. So we're easily past 400 AGL, so let's bring the power back to 25 inches. We'll bring the prop back a little bit. There's 1,000 feet AGL. We'll turn our fuel pump off. We'll check our fuel pressure. Fuel pressure is good. Initiate our turn. Climbing up to 1,500 feet today. And another thing I have decided, I'll tell you here in a second. So 50 feet below our desired cruise altitude, bring our power back to about 2350, bring the prop back to 2400, or 23.5 and 2400, and we're going to trim. I have decided that I am not going to be lazy about, there's a stutter, you see that? There's a stutter. And I got that yesterday in the exact same location. I have decided that I am no longer going to be lazy about my flying. I do a lot of hand flying in the sim. I know it's not something that a lot of people do. But I am now going to start holding myself to IFR and commercial standards for altitudes and for landings. Headings as well. I mean, I'm generally not flying a strict heading. But I want to fly at 1,500 feet, so I'm going to get myself at 1,500 feet, not 1,480, not, well, I mean, 1,480 is okay, but, not 1,600, not 1,400. I'm going to get myself at 1,500 feet, trim my aeroplane, and that's what we're going to do. That is what we are going to do. And on landing, so commercial standards for landings is 200 feet plus or minus, well, 200 feet plus, no plus or minus. If you come up short on your landing, come up short of your target, you are no longer a commercial applicant. You are a failed commercial applicant. So, which means our target is going to be the captain's bars on the runway, the 1,000-foot markers. And our goal is to touch down within 200 feet past the 1,000-foot markers. Now, how do you know if you're 200 feet past the 1,000-foot markers? The runway stripes are 120 feet. The distance between stripes is about 100 feet. Excuse me, is 180 feet, I believe. And the distance between the stripes is 100 feet. So it's about 280 feet from the start of the captain's bars, the 1,000-foot marker, to the start of the next stripe. So you should be kind of right in between them. The other thing is plus or minus 10 knots on your airspeed. So the desired airspeed or target airspeed in this airplane is 72 knots for final approach. So we are going to be 72 knots plus or minus 10 knots. That's your check ride standard. And you can see I'm getting up to almost 1580. And that VSI is coming up there again. We're not going to get past 1,600. IFR check ride standards, plus or minus 100 feet. So if you can imagine being under the hood with a view limiting device, and so in other words, all you can see is from here down. You can see all your instruments. You can't see out. You can see a little bit out this side window right here, a little bit about out this portion of the window. Come back to 1500 RPM or 15 inches of manifold pressure, 2200 RPM, and I'm gonna hold that airspeed, or hold that altitude rather. So I want the airplane to slow down. And so IFR check ride standards are plus or minus 100 feet. So I'm gonna hold myself to plus or minus 100 feet of my desired altitude. And as we talked about before, we've got our standard for our landing. Now, why am I doing all this? Fuel pump is on. Why am I doing all this? I'm doing all this because I am considering, once again, getting my commercial pilot certificate. And you know, people often ask, is the sim a good training platform? And the answer is yes. It absolutely is. If for no other reason, or if in no other way, then procedures, right? And so you fly like you practice. And so if I practice staying within my check ride standards on my flights in the sim, then when I go fly in the real airplane, that's going to help me mentally, you know, to have been focused on those standards to begin with. Alright, so there's full flaps. Final approach course looking clear. Of course, I'm just babbling. You guys are just waiting, looking to see the performance, but this is where my head is right now. So we're gonna start turning in early, unless you know what the winds are. If you know what the winds aloft are, which you should, always start a base to final turn early as opposed to late. If you start it early and you have a tailwind like I do now, clearly, you're not going to overshoot. If you start it early and you have a headwind and you wind up, you know, kind of turned in a little early, that's fine. All you have to do is just drift over to center line. So the other commercial pilot standard for landings, it's not FSU IPC, it's something else. It's taking it must be taking focus from my sim. So there's one red. Mixture and prop full forward, fuel pump is on, flaps are set. The other standard is on center line, and that is an underappreciated standard. If you stay on center line, right? There's an extended center line from that runway. You can, you know, if you just take this center line right out, if you stay on that extended center line, you are taking out a variable. It also helps you know where the wind is coming from. So you can see those big 1,000-foot markers there. That's what we're aiming for. I was going to do a go around here just to show you go arounds, but instead what I'm going to do is hopefully a commercial standard landing. 72 across the numbers, that's perfect. Let's power all the way out. That right there is a pass. Alright, a little bit of that. Flaps up, mixture and prop full forward, fuel pump is on. Takeoff power is coming in. Takeoff power is set. Engine instruments are in the green. Airspeed is alive. 70 knots. Let's go flying. That was that was pretty much a perfect landing. I mean, not to brag. That was pretty much a perfect landing. And that's the whole point, is to set a standard for your flying and fly to that standard. I gotta do my Windows trick. I wonder what this is all about. Do my Windows trick again here to get my number back. There's 1,000 feet AGL. Let's turn our fuel pump off. You can see the nose is kind of dragging behind the turn, and that's because we're not perfectly coordinated. We're pretty well coordinated, but not perfectly. That's quite a steep climb. See those right there, that right there. That right there was not what I want. Let's get ourselves trimmed out here. Not doing too bad. Alright, let's not exceed our tolerances here. That's what I kind of find with the sim a lot of times, is you trim and trim and trim and trim, and it makes small adjustments, and then you get to a certain point where you just add one more little notch of trim and it goes hard nose down. But see, if I fly all of my, let's go fuel pump on, switch tanks, fuel pump off, fuel pressure is good, fuel pressure is right here. If I fly all of my approaches and landings like that, whether I succeed in being on center line or not, and whether I succeed in being within 200 feet of my target or not, I at least have a goal. And I think one of the problems that people have with landings, real pilots, student pilots, is you don't really have a standard. You don't really have a target and a goal. And it's very, very important. It's very difficult to hold yourself to a standard if you don't have one. You know? So this is my new gig for flying. So, or my new attitude, I suppose I should say. So coming up, we have St. Bartholomew, right? Gorgeous day today in the Caribbean. So St. Bartholomew, and this is a new scenery. This is from SLH Sim Designs, and you can get it through the AnyBuilds store right now, and coming up you will be able to get it through SLH Sim Designs website itself. But SLH Sim Designs, so they started out doing they started out with the airport that we just left from, Clayton J. Lloyd International Airport, or in Anguilla rather, which is my spiritual home in the Caribbean, and that's what introduced me to SLH Sim Designs, and that's what made me just so grateful for what they do. And anyway, they've gone on to some really great things. Soca Airport down in Guyana. They've done Pointe-à-Pitre in Guadeloupe. They've done a couple other small airports in Guadeloupe. They've done Montserrat, which is a wonderful little airport. They've done St. Kitts, which is down over here. They have done just some really great Caribbean airports. Culebra is another wonderful airport that they've done, and their attention to detail is insane. They also did Grand Casse, which is the airport we're going to after this one, and they've just done some really phenomenal work. Their attention to detail is insane. He goes to these airports and takes pictures of things like the taxiway edge lights to make sure that his lights look the same in the sim as they do in real life. Now, in this particular scenery, I mean, obviously St. Bart's is pretty well known. In this particular scenery, he's got people at the top of the traffic circle, at the top of the hill there, and I don't know what's messing with my it's not the sim that it's messing with. It's somehow taking focus away from my screen, and you can see it when the FPS drops to like half, unless there's maybe a Sim Update 3 or Sim Update 4 beta issue, but I don't think so. Where maybe the frame gen disables it. I don't know. I'm not quite sure, because what happens is when you switch windows, when you're in the sim and you switch windows, whatever window you switch focus to, that cap frame X with Riva tuner, which is up in the left hand corner, will also switch and start giving you the performance of whatever that window is. And so I just feel like this thing is losing focus to another window, and that's what the issue is. But let's see, we'll go second notch of flaps. We shall see. But anyway, there's full flaps. There are people standing at the top of the traffic circle. There are cars that go through the traffic circle. All right, fuel pump is on. So you've got to keep an eye on all those things, because you can actually hit them. Gotta get my speed back here. But you can see all the ships that they've done. You'll see once we get into the airport, the roads and so on. I'm gonna aim for 75 knots on final. And at that rock right there, we want to be at 800 feet rather. That rock right there. And I can tell he's done the industrial buildings down here. I mean, he just does some awesome work. All right, mixture and prop full forward. Fuel pump is on. Flaps are set. Seatbelts are secure. Pre-landing checklist is complete. A little bit fast. I'm kind of on the edge of the power curve here. Alright, we're high, so we're bringing some power out. I'm bringing power all the way out. See the cars in the traffic circle there. Ooh. Takeoff power in. We bounced that one, kiddos. We bounced that one. That was beautiful. All right, so here's a go around. So full power, look at our airspeed, 65 knots, right? We got a lot of drag from those full flaps. Now, once we get some altitude, we had to keep an eye on the vertical speed. We want to get into a climb first of all. Now, once we get some airspeed, then we can walk up 1 notch of flaps. See, that airspeed is increasing. The vertical speed is good at almost 1,000 feet. So now I can let that nose come down a little bit more. Bring up the 2nd notch of flaps. And we'll bring up the 3rd notch of flaps. The one thing you don't want to do, well, there's a couple things you don't want to do. Number 1, you don't want to bounce your landing. It was a real quick view of SLH Sim Designs' new scenery. One thing you don't want to do is bounce your landing. But that was actually kind of perfect because if you do bounce a landing and you've got to go around, there was no being cute about that one. That one was a go around, had to be. All right, we'll turn the fuel pump off here at 1,000 feet. Number 1, mind thy airspeed. Keep an eye on your airspeed. That's the one thing that will kill you in that situation. And in real life, pilots kill themselves all the time on go-arounds. And what they do is they get slow. They don't know the process of getting back to of basically changing their energy state and getting back going again, getting back flying again, and how to change their configuration from a landing configuration to a climb configuration. And the key is what you do. Number 1, airspeed. Okay, that's the main thing you want to be concerned about. And I was at 65 knots, and stall speed is 57. It's not a whole lot of room to play with there, right? So you got to keep an eye on your airspeed. Number 2, once you've got some airspeed, is to establish a positive rate of climb, and that's right here on the vertical speed indicator. Establish a positive rate of climb. Now, generally what you should do, because I bounced that airplane, and I bounced it quite well, bounced it quite significantly, I had a positive rate of climb because I launched the plane off the ground like a basketball. Now what are we doing? Did I damage the airplane? It's flying a little touchy right now. Alright, let's get the fuel on the other tank and see if it's just a fuel imbalance. I don't think it is, but we'll see. So anyway, what you want to do, basically, if it's a go around before you touch the ground, really what you want to do is just level off, pick up some airspeed, and then once you have some airspeed, trade that airspeed for vertical speed. In other words, once you get some airspeed, get up to maybe 70, 75 knots, pull the nose up, get some vertical speed, some positive vertical speed. Once you get a positive rate of climb, and your airspeed is, you know, not in the range of stall, that's when you start walking up your flaps. And don't pull up all your flaps at one time. That is a major cause of people killing themselves in go-arounds. You walk the flaps up one notch at a time. Put up the first notch. So you know, I was at full flaps. So go from full flaps to 2 notches. And then just let the plane stabilize. Let it continue to climb. Let the airspeed increase. And once you get a little more altitude, a little more airspeed, drop the second notch of flaps down to 1 notch. Again, let the airplane stabilize. And then by that point, you should be, you know, decent speed and decent climb rate. I mean, I was at 90 knots and 1,000 feet. Just pull up that last notch of flaps. And I kind of think I did damage the plane because it's not flying real stable. I mean, I didn't hit the ground that hard, but who knows? But it's flying a little bit iffy, so what we're going to do is head right home here. We're going to head back to Anguilla. You never know what's going to happen when you do one of these flights, you know, at least I don't, with my level of skill. Now, normally I would overfly the field and enter a left downwind or runway 11, but considering I suspect that I may have damage, and you can see, look at this, the ball is out. Put in some rudder trim here. Again, we're losing focus on the screen. Alright, so the airplane's doing a lot better here. Now that I've adjusted the rudder trim. Curious. But anyway, normally what I would do is overfly the field and enter a left downwind for runway 11 in Anguilla, but given that I'm sort of wondering about the state of my aircraft, we're gonna make a right downwind for 11. It's going to give us more of a direct entry. Let's pull some power out, come down to 19 and 21, and just start a gradual descent. This is a rather interesting flight for me, because it literally turns your flying brain on. You know, how would I handle this situation if it was real? You know, and noticing that the ball was out, I don't know. It could just be that it took a knock when I was, you know, when we touched down there in St. Barts. Could be that it was out the whole time and I didn't notice. I doubt that. I think it was a result of what we had, of what transpired in St. Barts. But again, it's you know, it's interesting to me because you kind of got to you've got to you know, kind of figure out the airplane, what's it doing, what's it going to let me do, what might be the issue. My first instinct was a fuel imbalance because the airplanes in the sim are super sensitive to any fuel imbalance, which is not real. And as a matter of fact, why am I going to do a long? Well, you know what? I was just thinking to myself, why am I going to do a long final if I've got a what might be a sick airplane? But at the same time, the other thing you don't want to do necessarily, a lot of times people, if they've got a sick airplane, they start handling it aggressively. And that might not be the brightest idea either, you know? So I think in this particular case, a smoother... I'm just going to do a 2 flaps landing here. So I think in this case, a smoother... transition here is a smarter idea than, so what I was thinking was, why not just go do a short approach if you think you've got an issue with the airplane? But then again, you know, aggressive handling of the plane when you've got what might be a flight control issue, what might be a, you know, an issue with the structure of the airplane, whatever the case may be. Be gentle. Be gentle. That's my thought process right now. So. Let's bring some power out here. Go flaps full forward. Or flaps full forward. Mixture and prop full forward. And this way, if I have to go around again, I don't have to get rid of full flaps. Full flaps, the difference between 2 notches of flaps and full flaps, the first 2 notches of flaps add lift and drag. The 3rd notch of flaps really just adds drag. And I don't want a whole lot of drag in this particular scenario. So I've got more speed than I would normally need. Less flaps in case I have to go around. And at this point, I'm putting the airplane on the ground. If I go off the end of the runway through the fence, I don't care. I'm not going to take a chance at getting this in the air again if I don't need to. And I don't need to. So we're putting the airplane on the ground. And we'll take what we get. Another smooth landing. Alright. So, lean the mixture out here a little bit. So like I said, when I was, you know, what happened kind of forced me to troubleshoot, right? What might be the issue? Fuel imbalance came to mind just simply because it's the sim, and I know fuel imbalance is an issue in the sim. But the next thing was I noticed the ball being out of center, and why that is, I'm not quite sure at this point. But adjusting the rudder trim did the work, or did the, I'm just going to park up right here, did the trick. And then it's like a matter of, okay, you know, where am I in terms of you know, airports nearby? Where am I going? And you know, I was gonna go to Grand Casa and then come over here, But with the issue I was faced with, it very quickly became a no, we're not doing that. Let's get the airplane home and get it on the ground. All right, mixture to idle. Cutoff throttle is idle. Parking brake is set. Let's put the flaps up. Let's turn the lights off. Avionics master off before the mags. Mags come off. Master and battery switches off. And here we are. That was an interesting one. I mean, I demonstrated a go around because I had to go around. I didn't think that approach was actually that bad. I really didn't. I have to go back and look at it. But clearly, obviously had way too much energy. And whatever happened on the go around, there was clearly something happened to the airplane. And so then it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? And in real life, would I have gone back to St. Bart's? Absolutely not, because it's a, you know, that's a pretty challenging environment, as I've already proven by my lack of ability. I may have considered in real life heading over to Princess Juliana, because it's, you know, 8,000-foot runway. It's the biggest runway in the area. They've got more services than other places, including, you know, a hospital in case you need it. But in any event, there was a lot going on in this flight, and I certainly enjoyed it. I don't know if it achieved the goal of what we were trying to do, which was the performance test. Maybe we'll have another go at that with the driver. In any event, interesting flight. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. My flying brain is now awake and on fire a little bit, thinking about all this stuff going on. It's really kind of cool. And this is the beautiful thing about the sim, is you can do things come that are unexpected, and you've got to deal with them in real time. And you're sitting on your chair in your office, so nothing's going to happen to you if you know, nothing physically is going to happen to you. And that's the wonderful thing about simulation. And in any event, I hope you guys enjoyed the flight, and we will talk soon.